No, everyone was an asshole. My surgeon called it really bad. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I'm an overachiever. Insane, truly insane stripper, and not in the ways that most people think of when they think of insane stripper. The fact that the supply that is being delineated to the general population from the people that are holding the wealth is so minimal that there is like so little that you could get in the first place. Hi, my name is Tanya Nagin. I am half Japanese, half Jewish, and a musician in Los Angeles. I grew up in Western Virginia. It's Northern Virginia, which is like 30 minutes outside of DC. I had gone to Boston directly outside of high school to go to a music college, and then I got super depressed there because it turns out I can't live in Boston. So I actually came out to LA to study fashion, but I have not worked in fashion in years, and I have no plans of going back. I was depressed because it turns out I have seasonal affective disorder, so literally I did not get enough like sunshine and vitamin D to be a functioning person there, but because it was happening while I was in music school, I think my brain determined that like music wasn't the right fit for me, and then I came out to LA and I was like, oh, I don't want to die anymore. Music wasn't the issue, I just can't live in Boston. So working in fashion was interesting because I think I came out here with such an earnest mindset where I was like, oh, I bet there's like a lot of people that are just like me that are like really chill and like clothing. No, everyone was an asshole. So I was like, I don't want to work in this industry anymore because I love people and I will start to hate people if I keep working in fashion. And then, yeah, I basically started talking to people about wanting to put out music, and one of my friends, Monica, connected me with a producer that she knew, and I finally like had a way to start, because it's honestly really difficult to just start anything. The first thing that popped up in my head was me and my like best friend from elementary school, Brittany, convinced our 5th grade teacher, Miss Whitman, to let us like push desks together and stand on them and perform to the class. Which, like, as an adult now, I'm like, that is so unsafe, but I can't believe that we actually convinced her to let us do that. I feel like that's such a telling sign of how I ended up, that even in like 5th grade, I was like, I am the star. Honestly, what made me happy when I was 10 was probably singing and dressing crazy and glitter, and just, I really just always liked really like loud, flamboyant, colorful, creative things. I remember even like when I was younger, there's pictures of me with like clip-in like red streaks in my hair and like pants that have like flames embroidered on them. Like everything about me when I was 10 is so cohesive with who I ended up as an adult. There's 2 specific moments that I always think of as like the happiest moments of my life. One of them is I got to go on a cigarette boat when I was like 11 or 12. It was in Florida, like outside of Miami Beach, and it just went so fast, and I remember being so fucking happy, and my parents were like, we have never seen you smile that big, and I was like, my face is hurting from how happy I am right now. And then the second instance was when I was on a little bit of acid on a roller coaster in Six Flags, and I was like, this is the best day of my life. I feel like I've been chasing that very specific high ever since. When I was like really young, like probably like 7 or something, and there were those like websites that are like, what does your name mean? I found a website that was like, oh, Tanya means fairy queen in Russian and Slavic. And here's the thing. I don't know if that website is correct or not, but I learned it at such an early age that I was like, that is me. And then I share a birthday with Albert Hoffman, who is the person that invented acid. So yeah, acid fairy I think I've been using since I was like 16 or 17. So I shattered my ankle last year doing a backflip because I had my life planned out in phases and basically was like, oh, when I'm like in my mid-30s, I want to start doing stunts. So I've been taking small steps to do that. So like I got my motorcycle license 2 years ago for that. And then last year I started taking tumbling classes, and I was trying to do like a backflip during open gym after class one day. And I landed from this backflip in a way that shattered my ankle. I broke 3 different bones in my ankle. I had to get surgery. I have like a plate on one side and 2 screws in the other. I couldn't walk or drive for 3 months. And not to brag, but my surgeon called it really bad. He literally was like, this is my job. I see injuries like this every day. This one's really bad. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I'm an overachiever. And then what happened was I spent 12 hours at the hospital instead, where they gave me so many drugs that did literally nothing to me. That's also the day that I discovered I have a very high pain tolerance. Like I initially, I was so convinced that it was sprained that like when I left the tumbling gym, I was like, oh, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Like, I thought I was going to be out for like the smallest amount of time, and then where they were like, you broke 3 bones, I was like, oh, I heard 3 noises when I landed. 2 of the instructors at the gym had to carry me out. My friend Cammie took me to the hospital and spent like the next 12 hours. So many people asked me if I was going to go back, and I was like, yeah, obviously. But then once I was out for 3 months, I was like, I don't think I can afford to do that again. Because for me, it's not even like the actual thing of like getting injured and like the recovery. It was just like, I don't think I can afford to just put my life on pause for 3 months again. I was also a stripper for a month and a half.
You were?
Talk about that. Yeah, this is what I mean. I never talk about it. It was so brief. Literally, it was like November through December of 2021. So I started dancing, and then I took 3 months off, and then I was gonna go back, and I went back for 1 shift, and then I broke my ankle 2 days later. Yeah. I was not a very good stripper, so it's fine. I was an insane stripper. Like, I'm so bad at the job. Like, I'm so good at pole dancing, and I'm so good at talking to people, but I'm so bad at the job of like hustling money from people. Like, I would literally just be having conversations with people for like an hour and a half, like making this club no money. Like, I was the personality hire at a strip club. Like, the owner just thought I was fucking hilarious. I had a friend that was doing it with me, and I was like, oh, like, how much do you talk during your private dances? And she was like, not at all. And I was like, oh, because I talked through the whole thing. Like, we are conversing. I would be teaching people stuff, like literally people would leave and be like, I learned so much. There's a guy that was from New York, and I basically taught him about the reason that like New York bagels and pizza are so much better than a lot of other places is because of the minerals that are present in the water in New York that's then used for the dough. Insane, truly insane stripper, and not in the ways that most people think of when they think of insane stripper. Like, I was educational. I don't think I ever left the club with more than like $200 though. I was like very not good at the job. I mean, I used to go to Japan with my mom over the summers for like 1 to 2 months at a time, and just get to like visit my grandparents who lived in like the countryside of Japan. But it was very interesting because it's like, I feel like when you're raised by like an immigrant parent, like cognitively, you know that the culture that they were raised in is different, but it's always different to like actually see it in front of you. All I can think of is like going to Japan when I was younger and just getting to kind of like see how my mom grew up, because she was in like rural Japan too. It was like the countryside, there were rice fields. Like, I would go to school for like a couple weeks at a time in Japan, and we'd have to walk like 3 miles to the school, like through just like the countryside of Japan.
Do you know Japanese at all?
I did when I was younger. I'm actually trying to relearn like now. And it's interesting because trying to relearn, like all of a sudden there's like small things that are coming back where I'm like, oh, maybe I knew more than I thought. But when I was younger, I mean, like, yeah, I was able to go to school, and like, I don't remember really having any issues communicating with people. Honestly, I feel like I'm pretty good right now, which is weird considering the amount of shit that I have dealt with in the last month. But like, my music has been doing well. I'm super happy with the music that I've been writing. I'm working on a video right now with a director that reached out to me, and then I reached out to my favorite dancer to see if she was down to collaborate on it, and she not only said yes, but was like, I can bring in 2 other dancers. And I was like, because I was so scared to reach out to her in the first place, because I really don't like asking people to collaborate, just because, like, if I can, I would like to be able to compensate people for their time. But I was like, let me just ask. And she was like, yeah. I mean, if $1 million fell into my lap right now, that would be so very good. That would really improve the quality of my life. But the financial thing, honestly, is very systemic right now. Did you know that the gap between like the essentially the general population and the top 1% is greater right now than it was during the Great Depression? Right now, it's such a systemic thing that I feel like it's important to discuss, because otherwise you kind of like beat yourself up on like not doing as much individually. And it's like, no, individually, that is not the case. It's like, there's like 60 people holding this much of the wealth and then letting out like drops at a time, and you're sitting down here wondering why you're not catching enough drops when people are like literally holding the reservoir to themselves. I feel like I'm personally affected by it because the price of everything is going up. And like, for example, I've recently been doing a lot more of my grocery shopping at Amazon Fresh because it's a lot cheaper. And I always think about the fact that I'm like, it's really fucked up that a company like Amazon can be so big and basically control the supply chain so that way they have the cheapest prices. And then the only way that you as a consumer can get something that you can afford is by putting money into the multi-billion corporation that is already controlling the supply chain and the finances. And it's like a really fucked up system where it's like, there's no way to not support that, because if you're not supporting it, you can't afford to get like the things from like farmers markets or from individual people, because it's so much more expensive because they don't have control of the supply chain. It's just like a really fucked up loop that there's kind of very little way out of. And that's why I think it's really amazing that there's so many like labor movements that are happening right now. Like, I think it's so beautiful to see so many people be like, they need us more than we need them, and we can turn this around. It makes you realize that you're kind of not individually responsible. It has nothing to do with the fact that you're lazy. The fact that the supply that is being delineated to the general population from the people that are holding the wealth is so minimal that there is like so little that you can get in the first place. And I feel like mentally it's very helpful to remind yourself that it's not an individual thing. I didn't expect to be talking about late-stage capitalism. In general, though, anger is not an emotion that I feel very easily. I think it's because I had a lot of anger issues kind of growing up that I got from my dad. I had a lot of anger issues growing up that I got from my dad, and I kind of had to like unlearn them. So I think I've spent so much time kind of like consciously like dismantling that for myself that I am now able to like reach a pretty steady point of things. Like, I'm very good at being able to kind of determine my emotion instead of being reactive. I mean, it took years of work. It's like, because I did the work, it's now something that I kind of get to like reap the benefits of in terms of like not ever really being reactive to things. Maybe I should learn to... I used to be very, very depressed and suicidal for like most of my life. And I wish I could tell you what the catalyst was, but I truly have no idea. But I just remember at some point like 6 or 7 years ago being in my apartment and literally just like screaming, like literally screaming at the top of my lungs. And I just like, it was the only thing that I could do. And again, I can't even tell you the situation, like the circumstances around why I felt like that. I just remember wanting to fucking die. Yeah. I mean, again, I've been like depressed and suicidal for most of my life until like a few years ago, but it's weird because when I'm in it, it was like all I knew. But then when I'm out of it, all of a sudden it's like I blacked out and I can't remember like any of that. I mean, depression and suicide attempts literally run in the family. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't discuss the fact that it is genetic. But I mean, it's genetic. It's a chemical imbalance. There's not really much that you can do about it. After my last attempt, which was like 5 or 6 years ago, my boyfriend at the time basically reached out to my parents and was like, I don't know what to do. And that's when I started therapy. And my therapist, or my old therapist, because I haven't seen her in years now, Rhonda, really helped. She's incredible. And that in conjunction with like, and I hate that this is true because I thought that people were so annoying all these years. Turns out that like working out and eating well actually does really affect your mental health. And it's so funny because like I work out like so much, and I feel like people probably think that I do it to stay in shape, and I'm like, no, I don't work out to stay in shape. I work out so I don't want to literally fucking kill myself. Obviously, there's varying degrees of mental health. Like for me, I was able to just deal with things like with therapy and with working out and with eating well. Like I never was medicated or anything like that. But obviously, for everyone, it's going to be a little different. Like some people do need medication, some people aren't going to need consistent therapy. It's gotten better definitely throughout the years, but I used to have like what I would always describe as like a crippling sense of imposter syndrome. Like the amount of times that I would go to sessions and I would basically already have a song halfway written because I was so scared that I was going to show up and like nothing was going to come out. I feel like I just need to prove that like I am fully capable of the things that I have already done and continue to do, because sometimes I feel like hard to like take a step back and be like, I have done so much for myself, but you just don't realize it because you're living it day to day.